Happy Thanksgiving, Kirk.
Happy Thanksgiving. How are you
Almost.
celebrating this Thanksgiving, sir?
It's gonna be different. My parents are off seeing Macaulay and Vivian and their new baby out in California, and so we're not doing our normal family Thanksgiving with her side, and we did Kolb family, Lisa's side, last
Mhm.
weekend. So we don't know what our plan is yet other than just time with the kids. What
You
about
know,
you?
it's crazy to think is eventually the torch gets passed where then it doesn't center around your parents anymore. Like you are the parents and you are
Yeah,
the head of the thing, and your parents get old enough where then you are going to start taking care of things like that. It's an
I don't want
interesting
that.
time. I know it's responsibility.
I'm not
Um
hosting things.
no. Thanksgiving is one of those that we keep it small, stay local. We don't do extended family stuff. We'll probably see my wife's parents, and my mom is great at visiting often, so I see her all the time. So I'm not going to go back home to Green Bay. I'm going to stay in town and keep it pretty relaxed, actually, which I like. But I have some good news for you that I want to share.
Good.
hmm I'm happy to share this news.
Good. Is it Achilles related?
It is Achilles
Thank
related.
goodness.
Uh, the whole pay now or pay later thing. We talk about it like if something is starting to bark at you, don't be stupid and press a little to test and just to make sure, or go for one extra run, or do something that you shouldn't because you feel like you're going to lose fitness. Well, I heeded our own advice and think I stuck to the treadmill and easy stuff for nearly a week straight.
Okay.
Didn't run as nearly as much as I wanted, and slowly but started doing a lot of like rehab stuff. Slowly but surely it's come around, and I was able to hit a pseudo speed flat session, and I think I'm going to touch wood. I'm going to be okay, I think. And I thought this could be bad.
Thank goodness.
So I'm just happy to report I did a test quarter mile on off workout on Sunday, and it tolerated every ramp up in speed. And then I did a tempo on the concrete today in the Asics Metaspeed Sky, which is a pretty stiff shoe, and it held up. And so good news. Maybe I'm gonna make it.
Well, then that's what I'm thankful for this week.
I'm both of us. We both can be thankful for me. But point being is like it was not great, but like could I have pushed through it? I think so. But what's the rush? And
Right.
even if there was an A race in 2 weeks, what good are you if you show up injured? So the point is I stuck with what didn't aggravate the condition or took an extra day or 2 off, and here we are only a week later and I'm feeling better. So like just anybody who
Yeah.
needs to hear that, just chill if something isn't feeling right. Just for a little bit, just an extra couple days.
I'm happy
That's
for
all.
you.
Yeah.
And I have a celebration then as well.
I know you do, so share.
I ran 19 miles last week, Kirk,
Well, I'm thankful for that, Bracken.
and I did my first quote unquote mini quality session yesterday.
So, audience, if you've been listening, Bracken basically said, I'm injured again. I'm not running. It's been forever. And then you haven't updated us on your running. Oh, me personally, you have off mic, but you'd run a couple weeks now. You've been pretty consistent and you're ramping back up and things are feeling good.
Yes.
Correct?
So I didn't run a step for nearly 7 weeks. And then I started walking uphill, and that has progressed to jogging. And like day one was 8 total minutes, broken up into 50 to 60 meter sections of jogging. So it's been very sequential. But here's been my mileage, Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Week one, 2.31 miles
Total.
total.
Does that include walking?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Week two, 4.27 miles.
Impressive.
That's
Double.
not following the 10% rule.
That's the 50% rule.
Yeah, baby. Week three, 6.96 miles.
Beauty.
Week four, getting crazy, 19.09 miles.
Holy Snopes.
So,
This is actually good for people to hear. Not that I'm coming off injury, because I'm not. It was just something that really started barking and I listened to it, right? Very different than what you dealt with, which is I can't run. Like there's no
correct.
way. People generally, when they come back from injury, I want to get your thoughts on this. They haven't reframed their mind to what mileage should now be. It's like I used to run 6 to 8 miles easy, And so now that I'm starting to run again, I'm going to go right back and I'll just do 4 to 6, maybe, something not as much as I was, but like I'm still running using the framework of the volume I used to run to make decisions post injury, how to run. And
Yeah.
you have to go back to the most basic, simple drawing board of seeming 2 point some miles in 1 week, which included walking, seems like a waste of damn time, but it's
Mhm.
not. You have to be so slow and cautious and maybe do that for the first 2 to 4 weeks and prove to yourself like it's not a false summit, so to speak. Like, I feel great. And then I get sideswiped. It's like, no, you got to prove to yourself. So, like, your trajectory, although it sounds silly, is what most need to go through if they're coming back from some sort of serious injury.
Yeah.
Slow, 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 slow.
Yeah, and it's one thing if you took 2 weeks off because something was aching, but, like, if you have something that needed to heal, you need to make sure it's healed, and that the other pieces and this has been my issue, right? It's that whatever else has atrophied along with the injury that didn't get rehabbed in proportion to the area you rehabbed is now 7 weeks weaker,
Correct.
and that has been the thing that keeps getting me. I come back from a knee, I tear a calf. I come back from the calf and I pull a hamstring. I come back from that, I tear the other knee. Like it's the thing that's not getting worked while you're recovering is really just atrophying. And that
Mhm.
just keeps being the thing that bites me. And I have just made it my entire mission on this one to do the piddly stuff. And I've
Uh,
stumbled upon something that's working for me, Kirk.
Okay.
And that is everything I've done is interval based. I have not gone for a run yet. Every single run has been intervals.
Okay. And to give us your rationale.
I am stopping every single rep before anything goes wrong or before anything fatigues. So it is entirely skill work and dosing impact. And I'm still running them aerobically until yesterday. Like
Hmm.
my first trail run back was a total of 25 minutes broken up into 4-minute jogs and 20 to 30 seconds of just walking around at 9:30 pace.
Hmm.
Like very aerobic intervals. But what it's done is A, it's limited the actual stress I'm taking, but B, because it's an interval workout, for whatever reason, that makes me say, all right, you have to warm up. And
Hmm.
so I'm doing the little things beforehand. Or if it was
Sure.
just a 25-minute jog, I'd probably just go jog 25 minutes. But because it's 25 minutes of intervals, I'm going through a warm up routine. And that has led to, well, if I'm already doing that, it's easy to add in some band work or some core work or some ankle strengthening routine. And suddenly I'm doing the piddly things that I never do.
Yeah, that's the BS about coming back from some sort of injury that's kept you off running. And we've mentioned this a number of times in past episodes, but to reiterate, like, your injury, of course, you're super hyper aware of making sure that's healed and feeling good. But everything else that took impact has now not taken impact for the same amount of
Right.
time. And it's just not used to it, acclimated, or ready for it. And so I would say every single injury I've come back from that has forced me to take notable time off, let's say 2 or more weeks off of running completely. When I return to running, of course, I'm monitoring whatever injury kept me out. But what, two, three, four other things start popping up? Like, why is my piriformis just screaming? Why do my
Mhm.
knees hurt all of a sudden? Suddenly, my Achilles right now, like out of nowhere after taking time off, right? When it's never been an issue. It's always other things that end up happening because of just the ramp up phase. And so you're kind of dealing with that. But because you slow play it, so painfully slow play your
Mhm.
volume, you can stave that off. And that's part of that slow ramp up too, is not just the injury itself, but everything else around that you're not even thinking of that could
Right.
take a hit from return to training. So
And it is so slow and maybe overboard and overkill with
at,
caution.
at this point, it
But
should be for you, by
if
the
I
way.
averaged 19 miles per week for 2024, I would have like 30% more volume than I did in 2024. So, even though it's obnoxious, it actually is the best training if I if I did 52 weeks of this than I'd averaged in any given year recently because I keep missing time. So like, is it obnoxious or is missing the time obnoxious?
Missing the time's obnoxious. And 19 miles includes some vert in there, right? Like I assume some of that's incline treadmill. So
I've only
if
done
we,
one flat run.
right. So if we talk, maybe if you timed it out, maybe it's 30 miles on flat terrain time wise, but it doesn't even really matter. But point being is there's also ways to jig the system. We've talked about it, and you're doing
Yeah.
some of your work uphill.
I'm actually interested. What did I? Yeah, it was 3 hours of work to get 19 miles.
Yeah. Well, bless you.
Thank you. All right. So
Just somebody
Go
that needed
ahead.
to hear this, just to slow your roll, especially most of us don't have big races. Some do, but most don't until after the first of the year. Even some of the big ultras in the Southwest and southern parts don't happen until like February. Anyway, his point being is now's not the time to rush it.
No.
So hear
Well,
that.
fake intro aside, real intro is about to hit us.
Wait, no, I'm not ready yet.
Oh,
No, I want to talk about something.
okay.
We're failing the running public in one way. We finally have some awesome high-level racing to talk about. Since the Olympics, we haven't touched professional running. And we just had the NCAA cross-country championships this weekend in Wisconsin.
Do you know why I haven't brought up a single word about it?
Because you haven't watched it
I
yet?
haven't watched it yet.
Oh,
And I've
heck's the
avoided
matter?
spoilers.
Oh,
I
so
know what teams won,
okay.
but that's it.
So you don't want to talk about it?
Selfishly, I don't because I'm going to watch it this week on the treadmill.
And you legit don't know who won or where
I
the
do
podium
not know
went?
who won. I know that someone, in order to not spoil it for someone else, I saw a headline that someone who finished well finished with one shoe. I'm excited to see who that was, but I do not. I know which teams took first, and that is all I know.
Which team, really? But nonetheless.
Well, there you go with a spoiler.
I think it's the first time both the men's and women's organization from the same school have won in like almost a decade or 2 decades, something like that.
Really?
Quite a while. Yeah. I could be making that up completely though. So okay, fine. I guess we'll just bait and switch, guys. Sorry about that. Selfish Brakken. You don't want to talk about it.
That's it.
Talk about
Yep. That's it.
God. All right, I guess wait till next week. But if you haven't watched the NCAA cross country championships, you can watch D3, D2, and D1. Somebody from your alma mater, Whitewater, won Division III cross country title. Did you know that?
Well, there we go with more spoilers, Kirk. I did not know. I've avoided all spoilers.
Oh, well, I thought we were just talking D1, but somebody from Whitewater, on the men's side, pulled it off in the final straightaway, won the championship, but 24 flat, very respectable.
I'm so upset right now.
You weren't going to watch that. I know that's not what you were referring to.
100%.
All right, I'll shut up.
I even build to D1. Do you know that about me when there's championships?
You start with 3 and go to 1?
Yep.
Sorry, man. I messed it up for you. My bad.
That's all right. It's good news.
I thought you'd be excited to hear. Okay, I guess hard intro us.
Not even that hard. It's just a gentle pivot. Speaking of championships, the Spartan Race World Championships are happening this weekend in Abu Dhabi, which is the 4th time now they've been there, which I believe ties it for most times held at any venue.
Because that's where the money's at.
That's where the money is currently. And this was our world for a long time. And I believe you have an athlete or two over there, and we still coach people in the realm of OCR, but this podcast is decidedly running centric. But OCR is probably our original post-collegiate love language of running. And so I sprung this topic on you right before we started to record here. You had no say in this, but what I want to talk about today is OCR. And not just about it. I want to take a stance that is for the non-professional runner. So if you are not aspiring to, let's put the line at qualify for the Olympic trials.
Okay.
If that is not your goal, if your goal is underneath that, the very best form of training for a runner is training for OCR.
This is a hot take episode.
Yeah, I mean, OCR hasn't been hot for a while.
That's
I'm gonna say
true.
no. But it is my firm belief that almost every single distance runner out there would be better off if they trained like they were training for the Spartan Race World Championships.
Well, first of all, if you are a pure runner, which most of you listening are, the origin of this podcast was 50-50 OCR and running at best, maybe 60-40 60 OCR, 40% running.
Mhm.
And we've skewed to what? 80-20, 90-10, something,
90-10 minimum, probably.
90-10. So we've morphed, right? Running is the staple of OCR. It's the staple of hybrid. Running is still the most important thing when it comes to OCR. So don't tune this out if you don't care about Spartan racing or high rocks or any of those things, because this is still very relevant to you. And I lived what you're talking about. I mean, when I found OCR and Spartan race and I decided to pivot with relatively the same amount of time commitment per week, maybe a little bit more, suddenly my 5K was 30 seconds faster. And I scratched my head and wondered why. And when I say suddenly, I mean over 6 to 9 months, but 30 seconds from 16:15 to, let's call it, 15:40, that's a notable jump at that speed, with seemingly training less specific for my running and 5K. The math didn't math until you really start splitting hairs and peeling back layers and understanding the why it made me better. And so it's a very worthwhile conversation. I agree with you. I just want to make sure there's buy-in from our listeners, because
Mhm.
there's probably a couple eye rolls when we're like, freaking OCR again, these guys.
Yeah, and I am confident that every runner out there, even if they were a professional runner, would find at least one takeaway from this episode here. Because what OCR does, and this is not a spoiler for the episode, but it is a big part of it, is it identifies your weaknesses athletically somewhere in your chain and it exposes it. And
Yep.
runners are notorious for having weaknesses in their chain because they're not needed most of the time until they cause you an issue, either in your running or later on in life with your health. And so, just from a holistic prevention standpoint, this episode is going to help everyone. But from a performance standpoint, I believe it will help most non professional runners actually become better runners by talking about OCR.
I wonder how many pseudo professional runners we have that listen to this. How many are actually saying, hey, I may qualify for the Olympic trials in something? If you're one of them, reach out.
I don't
Because
know.
I'm saying this applies to pretty much all of our listeners.
Yeah.
So why don't you, since this was your idea, I'm happy to play second fiddle here, or at least let you kick it off. Where do you want to start?
Well, I want to start with the theory of traditional run training versus OCR, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Just kind of set the stage. So, traditionally, as a runner, you choose a system if you are serious about running. It might be as simple as I'm going to choose Hal Higdon's online training plan to get me to a 10K or a 5K or a half marathon or a marathon, or Jack Daniels, or I'm going to choose something that's written by my favorite marathoner with their online. But there's a system, you get a plan, and that plan is based on a theory of running. And it might be based around VO2 max work, or maybe based around high volume, low intensity, or high intensity, low volume, or threshold based training, or multiple training paces. It doesn't really matter, but there's a system, and that's the system you work. Or you don't choose a system and you just go out and run by feel. But no matter what system you choose, you're missing something because you don't need it. In track, in college, the thing we were missing that we didn't need was long staying power,
Mm.
long durability. We didn't need 2 to 3 hour runs. We didn't need tons of hill work. We didn't need a lot of strength training, even though my university probably strength trained more than most. We didn't need a lot of those things. We didn't need agility work. We didn't stretch a lot. It wasn't specific to our performance and we didn't do it. And that tends to be how running programs are. And OCR programs are about all of those things, except that final piece of what don't I need. It is what don't I have that I do need or might need in a race. And it tries to find what you're missing or what could be exposed on a certain course or terrain or distance or obstacle, and then get you ready for it preemptively. And that is the big, in my opinion, other than terrain, that is the single biggest differentiator between running training and OCR training, is that running teaches specifically to your test and OCR teaches to as many tests as possible and thus makes you more well-rounded.
And how does well-rounded equate to being a faster runner?
Right to it.
Well,
Well,
no, I liked your spiel there, and I agree with you. I'm not questioning you, but I'm
yes.
questioning you.
Well, in my mind, OCR won't make you hit your ceiling in any one given area.
Hold on, can I pause?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I just waved my hand, and now
Oh, you're good on. Oh, yeah. I see the camera tracking you.
these fancy cameras. Let's just to be clear, if you were to pursue and train for OCR, you would be a better runner at 100 meters, at a marathon, at where does it start? Because I don't think being an OCR athlete probably applies much under a 5K.
Well, I
But
think that
I
you
guess
led me into what I was going to say, which is I don't think it makes you a better blank runner. I think it
okay,
makes you a better runner,
okay.
not an
I have,
event.
just so you know, by the way, I have lots of thoughts on this. I'm gonna get to them. I
Mhm.
just want I want you to butter up the topic.
Well, I'll butter it. I don't think it will guarantee to make you better at any one event. In fact, if you were to train for any one event specifically using a classic running plan, that you'll be better that route than if you used OCR to be good at it. But I think OCR will make you a better all around, all encompassing runner, which means you will probably have more ability to jump into anything or handle any weird piece of training or racing or a fall or a random picking up a refrigerator to help a friend move. But like the all encompassing holistic runner will be better for OCR training, which is why I say if you have a specific goal like qualifying for the Olympic trials, you will not be better by OCR training because it's for a race in particular. That's where the differentiator lies. Is it a race or is it running in general?
Okay. OCR training is still predominantly run training. So let's make that like abundantly clear. The
Mhm.
focus of OCR training is run training, correct?
Correct.
The majority of your time is spent clean running like you do now. Anybody listening. So
Correct.
don't let this conversation cloud that, because it's still, even when I was pursuing OCR, I was running 60-mile weeks, like just running 60-mile weeks. I'm going to cut through the fat here and say why I think, and then we'll get to
Okay.
details, why I think it actually makes you aerobically more capable, thus a better runner,
Okay.
based on your intro, or following up your intro. Sorry. So riddle me this, Bracken. Why do cross-country skiers, rowers have generally tested higher VO2 maxes than any other sport, even including running? Some of the highest VO2 maxes are recorded from cyclists and runners, but majorly we're looking at cross-country skiers and we're looking at elite rowers, really. Why are their VO2 maxes higher? Why are the highest recorded not a non-runner VO2 max?
Without going really scientific,
These are
because
rhetorical questions on my
every,
end, but I want you to walk
okay,
me into it. Yeah.
without going super scientific, because every piece pulls their weight and does its work. There is no part of their chain, there's no part of their system that has not been trained to help out. It's like in tug of war, having 10 pairs of hands on the rope instead of 5. That's as simple as I can make it.
You really dumbed that down about as well as you could. And I agree with you. To expand on that, multiple parts of the body are required to truly do work actively in order to perform. In cross country skiing, there's heavy arm engagement and core engagement, much more so than running. Yes, we swing our arms. Yes, we keep our core tight, but not nearly the blood and oxygen demand of cross country skiing. Rowing is a leg and arm and this hyperextension at the end, and it requires a lot more blood shunting, vasodilation of multiple areas of the body, right? Which is a high aerobic and cardiovascular demand. running is about as good as it gets. It's so close, but it's not that. Get on the assault bike and work your butt off and see how that feels when you tip versus, let's say, a pure run I've tipped. Okay. So I'm trying to set this up. Hopefully, you know where I'm going with this. What OCR does, which is fantastically miserable and put me into a place in my training in which I hadn't experienced in pure running, is suddenly I'm fatigued in so many ways that my body in training that my body is put under a stress I can't even get to if I'm only pure run training.
Mhm.
You think something as simple as running lactate threshold and then getting up and doing 10 pull-ups and then going back to lactate threshold is going to be, you think for a non-OCR athlete, you'd hear that and say, oh, the pull-ups would be a break. I'm going to get back to running. I'm going to feel better. Wrong. You're going to get back to running and feel worse because now you've asked other parts of your body to do real work. And when you start thinking about the demands of OCR, we put 120 pounds of sand on our back and had to hike up double black diamonds in the mountains. Then you have to go and clench your upper body and get across these rigs and vasodilate to the upper body pump. Point being is when you're putting out high output and then even another stressor is added on that, your body has no idea or nothing left to do but get better at more work.
Mhm.
And so the point I'm getting at is the fact that the demands are so diverse, and at times in OCR training, you are forced to run hard when other areas of your body also need oxygen, other than, let's say, predominantly your legs, blood flow. It makes you more capable of more work. And if you're capable of more work and you can combine that with the right efficiency piece of running, you become faster.
Yeah,
That's how I
100%.
look at it.
We
That was a
I
long way to get to it, but
I'll take this on my shoulders, Kirk. We have not had an analogy
we
in a
I.
while.
Is it a car analogy? Is somebody naked? Any of the above?
It's car adjacent.
All right.
Well, so because I don't have any of the tools for the karting for Braden's karting, I've had to purchase all the tools this year, which means I had to learn about them and research them because I'm obnoxious like that. And one of the things that I had to learn about were impact wrenches and impact drills, impact drivers, and how much force they have versus how much your task needs. And then the attachments you attach to the drill and what happens to the power there. So we're just going to say I have this drill in my hand. And for just a clean number, let's say I have 1,000 foot-pound of torque in this drill. Now I need an attachment that can transfer that 1,000 foot-pound of torque to the bolt I'm working on. And so a simple one-click attachment can pretty much do that. But now if I have to put an adapter on that, there's now a junction point. And energy is lost through that junction point. And the worse quality your attachment point is, the more gets lost out there. You might be putting 900 pounds of torque or 750. Now you add a second attachment point in there. Let's say you need more space or to come from an angle. And now there's two places for energy to be lost. So even though the drill is still capable of putting out 1,000, you might only be putting 400 into the actual bolt that you're working on. And that's how OCR works in my mind with your fitness. Your heart and lungs are your heart and lungs. But every place in your chain, in your system, in your musculature, that can't pull the same amount of weight as the rest of the system, you're losing little bits of energy out right there. And if you're running a straight line mile, that may not ever manifest itself. But in a 5K on the track versus 5K on the roads, you're going to lose a little bit of your energy every time you turn sharp, or every time you go uphill, or every time you go downhill, or every time you get cut off and you have to chop your steps and then regather and go again. Those are all attachment points to your engine. And when your straight line running muscle fibers either get taxed differently or something else disrupts them and that other piece has to work, you're losing bits of your, call it your VO2 max, your aerobic capabilities, whatever it is. There's too many attachment points now that haven't been used and that doesn't transfer that torque straight out into the bolt anymore. And OCR teaches you to lose less torque when things are not perfectly aligned. Whereas running teaches you to put torque straight in one spot and it doesn't teach you to do anything else.
I can get on board with that analogy. So the idea is these loss of torque situations, the body is forced to adapt to these stressful situations to learn how to better get back to the torque.
Yeah, and just like with the attachments, if you learn how to line them up correctly, you lose less torque. And if you buy a higher quality bit, you're going to lose less torque there. And that's what the training of OCR does. So the point where you get tripped in a race or you hit a big uphill and like it's still tiring, but you know how to do it. And your muscles get back to work afterwards. And you still have all your anaerobic capabilities waiting for you when you regain your stride rather than you've been dinged down to 85% of what you brought to the table. OCR rounds out your ability to do everything adjacent to the task at hand. So you don't need pristine conditions to do it well.
Well, I think that's actually perfectly setting me up the term pristine conditions. Because if I think of the majority of the runners out there who, let's say, have holes in their game,
Mhm.
okay, the fact that these demands are happening in other parts of your body that force more aerobic output and thus adaptation, like that's a big part of this. At the same time, I mean, what percentage of runners out there go out their front door, run down the concrete sidewalk, do their loop, come back home, and that's generally their stimulus with some speed play, hopefully, and maybe a track day or two. But I think most runners fall short on two fronts in which if you don't do these two things as an OCR athlete, you get murdered out there. And that is run hills and terrain. And immediately I went from going out my door, running on the sidewalks, hitting whatever I hit, running with purpose still. That's what I did every day, flat ish, flat, flat, flat. We live in Minnesota. I have, 70 feet of gain in a 10-mile run where I live. To like, I'm going to the ski hill. I'm going to the state park and running the bluffs along the river because the race demands it. And I think single handedly, just getting out of your own rut with flat ground running and forcing yourself to do purposeful uphill and downhill work, step one is going to make you a better flat runner. And that
Mhm.
immediately did that to me. New stimulus, right? And not only that, but we talk about, well, over speed training makes the race itself feel more comfortable, easier, because the over speed training is so much harder, faster, and more intense than the race demands. Well, that's what hill and terrain running is. It's harder and more intense than your flat 5K. It sucks the life out of you and is more demanding running up a 20% grade than running flat on concrete or the track. And so, if you're truly getting ready for the OCR races that are out there, you need to get on terrain and you need to start running hills with purpose. And then the other thing, in which I think many traditional runners lack, is true strength, like true strength,
Mhm.
which you need to have at least a version of strength endurance to do well in OCR. And so I started running terrain and hills and I started being very specific with the type of strength I was doing. And I think most people would benefit from adding both of those things into the routine. Whether they raced OCR or not, the demands of it force you to do those things to be successful. Otherwise, you will fail miserably. And so I think
Yeah.
those two components, if I break it down to two, I think it would be like, for the people listening, why would it make you better? Like, you have to do those two things, terrain and hill running and strength work, and you have to do it regularly. And how many of you listening are doing that? Right. So I think
Yeah.
for me, I can break it down to that probably.
I agree. And and there's like adjacent pieces that will help you, and I think we're going to talk about that. But I'm going to start with just a few like very black and white examples of why. So,
Okay.
how many times do you hear each year of an athlete who says, "Our course got changed this year last minute because of a permit, or because of flooding, or because of construction, and now there's a big hill from mile 5 to 6." Or now we have to use a service road to connect the course, or we're running on gravel for a half mile, or these things happen all the time in road running. And if you've been doing OCR principled training, you will adapt to that thing better than someone who hasn't. So it hasn't made you a better 5K runner, but you're going to run a better 5K because of it when those random things happened. I run this turkey trot every year when I'm healthy. And twice we've had snow, and once we had ice. And you know what happened those 2 years? Those
Huh.
were the only 2 years I won. Because I can run in snow now. I can run on slippery terrain. I can transfer more of my max running power to the ground in sloppy conditions than the people around me can. It didn't make me better at running an 8K race, but I ran a better 8K race because of it. So yeah, it's weird to say do all this in case your course goes wrong, but it happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. You even had the opposite. You had a trail 50K become more roadish one time.
Mhm.
But courses change all the time in real life. No one makes it through a season without one course being changed.
It's kind of like an insurance policy on your running. Well, I can worry less no matter what is thrown at me because I'm more prepared than
Yeah.
the guy running down the sidewalk every day.
If you need
Um,
it, you have it.
if you
And that's
need it, you have
really
it.
reassuring. If it's super windy, if you had a field of 100 runners who were all about, let's say, 20 minutes in the 5K, all in the same high end capability, and
Mhm,
suddenly there's 30-mile-per-hour winds on course. If 5 of them are OCR runners, my guess is those 5 are going top 10. If it suddenly
mhm.
dropped to negative 10 degrees out, same thing happens. If a hill gets added in the middle of the course, if anything weird, if it snows, suddenly the OCR runners are going to retain a higher percent of their max. And so, just from a course change perspective, environmental weather, if you're doing more of your off trail running, your strength training, your hill running, you are going to keep a higher percentage of what you can already do when things go south.
Well, you say it doesn't make you a better runner.
Faster
Um,
runner, per se.
a faster runner, but it did make me a faster runner. Okay.
Yes.
And it was a faster runner in a clean environment, like a flat road race or a track time trial. I got faster as well.
Mhm,
So I don't want to undersell. It was a couple episodes ago. We were talking about like what should you focus on in the off season is like the thing you're not good at or the thing you don't want to do or the whatever for
mhm,
offbeat training will make your main event better ultimately. Really, it's working weaknesses, right? And go try OCR for the first time. You're going to find you have weaknesses and you're going to work on them and they're going to
mhm,
be exposed very quickly. And then what you need to work on will rise to the surface. Um, what I would like to do is what does this look like then, right? Like, what
mhm,
does this actually look like? Like, for some people who are like, oh, I'm not going to do OCR, right? Like, that's not. But I'm listening to you guys still for whatever reason. Like, what would be examples of okay, we get it. OCR is running, go through an obstacle, running, carry something heavy, and it's usually on junk terrain. And if you train for those things, it will make your running better. What would the training look like then? What would be the
mhm.
implementable, the actionable items for our pure runners out there, the takeaways?
Well, I think I'll start again with theory and then get more specific from there. But the
Okay.
idea with regular running is you generally choose a pace or a zone or an intensity that I'm going to use on race day, and you start there. And that's really effective for getting faster at running. But one of the big components of OCR is what is the worst blank? What is the biggest blank? What is the most blank I could encounter on course? And that sets my parameters. And so the example is what is the steepest terrain I could find? Or what is the most technical terrain I could find? Or what is the coldest weather we could see? Or what is the worst something that could go askew that I'll see? And now I know that sets my far end of my parameters. My long run must be this long because courses are known to go long in OCR. So I have to build in a buffer there. I have to do this type of mountain work because I could see that they could have this kind of climb on course. Runners don't really think that way because courses don't change that much. So they don't think about worst case scenarios a lot in their training. So I think the first thing you would do is say, instead of saying only what paces or time duration am I looking at, is what is the worst type of terrain and hills I could potentially see in any race this calendar year? And then you start using some of those on like every third workout. That would be like the most basic way of taking OCR principles to running. In the past, they sometimes include this climb up the backside of this bluff on this road race I do. So now that sets the perimeter. I have to be ready for that type of hill. or sometimes that they use a gravel road for this. I need to do some of my training on gravel, or whatever that thing may be. Start setting a worst case scenario parameter for I need to be in touch with this for as much of the year as I can be. How do you feel about that?
I feel really good about that. It's like, what is the hardest portion of or hardest race I am going to have to tackle this year and train like that is my mission.
Yeah.
And then it's going to make the more controlled things feel even more manageable. It's like, okay, my focus is the 5K, and I'm going to race a bunch of 5Ks this year with my goal being to reduce my time in PR. But I might do the marathon in May. So I got to be over prepared. I got to set myself up to maybe be ready for that. And suddenly your long runs are drawn out. You're hitting grindier threshold work that's bigger and longer than you would if you were just 5K training, just in case you end up running the marathon. And then you go race your 5K and you're like, I'm 30 seconds faster. How did that happen? Well, duh. You trained for the worst case scenario, biggest demand, which is the marathon. And suddenly your 5K got faster. That's the pure form of what you're saying,
Yeah.
in a sense, right? And I agree with you.
You take a look back when the Olympic marathon trials, and we reference this often, were in Atlanta, and it was going to be a hilly course. And ahead of the time, people talked about, will the hills play into this? Will this be a big difference? And some runners were like, I'm a good hill runner. It's going to be fine. And others were like, I'm terrified. And others were like, I'm not worried at all. I'm not changing a thing. You wouldn't hear that in a mountain race, in an OCR race. You wouldn't hear, well, they have a 2,000-foot climb, but I'm not worried about it. I'm a good runner. All the serious people would be like, I'm hitting 2,000 feet minimum in my hill workouts. That's what I'm going to
Mhm.
do because it's going to be real. But on the road, it was still like, I got to get my 10K pace work in. I got to get my threshold work. I've got to do all this. And then the last thing was, I'm going to add some hills as we get closer to race day, because they didn't do a fear-based training system. And OCR is very much fear-based. You're
Yes, it
really
is.
afraid of what can go wrong on course. But if all of those runners had said, here is the exact course in Atlanta, let's make it 10 to 20% worse for if they surprise us, and I prepare for that in addition to all the things I'm going to do, no one would have struggled with the hills. No one would have cramped in the second half because they didn't realize what the downhills were going to take out of them. At worst, they're going to be over prepared, and now they can attack the hills harder than they had in training because they realize this isn't as bad as what I thought. But we had people who were supposed to be top 5, top 10 favorites crumble on that course because they didn't use fear-based training. A little bit of
Mhm.
fear-based training is the way to plan out your season in OCR, and it's traditionally not for road running.
Yeah, you want to be scared, live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, and have a 2.5 hour mountain race that breaches 10,000 feet and 2,500-foot climbs on your calendar. Figure that out. You want to talk about living scared? When I entered that sport, be like, I'm going to Lake Tahoe with 5,000 feet of climbing, and I have a 140-foot ski hill to work with here. And it's at altitude. Scared out of my mind. You think that didn't make me level up my training and start splitting hairs and getting specific
Mhm.
and buying a stupid Nordic track trainer and putting so much sweat on that thing that the electronics broke? No. I was scared out of my mind. That's probably, if you even distill it down further, it's probably why I got better. I was so
Yeah,
scared I just did the things. Still
and
failed my
runners
first year, but that's okay. Details.
true. Runners are afraid of the wrong thing oftentimes, which is they're afraid of doing too much of non-specific to their sport work and that it will detract from them. Rather than
Mhm.
being afraid of worst case scenario, they're afraid of a theoretical. Well, what if I lose too much of this fitness? What if this takes away? And one thing OCR has taught all of us is that fitness carries over way more than you expect it to. Engine's
Yep.
engine, fitness is fitness, as long as you have the skill and the specificity of your task at hand. And so while runners will look at it and be like 100% of my training must be towards running.
Mhm.
And if I gave 10% of that away, I'm going to be worse. An OCR athlete would be like, if I'm like 80-20, I'm good. And so that meet in the middle, that 90-10 is probably more of like a sweet spot for a runner. But if you had the peace of mind knowing that I do a little bit more hill work and strength work, I'm still going to be every bit as fast as I was, but now I'm more adaptable or durable. A bit of that confidence in that the training will translate would go a long way for runners.
I very much agree. So if we're talking about training specifics, then we've
Mhm.
hinted at things here for the traditional road runner, trail runner, non OCR, the majority of our listeners. What are things we could take from OCR training and apply it to our run training to make me better? Because I'm not going to do OCR. I'm
Yep.
again just listening
And most
because
people shouldn't. It's
sure.
not for everyone. We don't think OCR is the holy grail of racing. We don't do much of it ourselves anymore. So it's okay if you have no interest in that. I want to be clear on that.
You know what though? Has Trifecta Worlds in West Virginia like piqued your interest at all? Just a
Yes.
little.
Seattle as well.
Seattle. Just a small part of me that's entertaining at this moment. Going to West Virginia for that weekend, and I don't know why. The course is great. We'll have international competition. I think it's going to get a good U.S. contingency. Maybe some of the old guard will show up just because it's novel to have it
Mhm.
here. Anyways, not to distract, but I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Well, I think that the safest, easiest way, let's just say most people are on a 2 quality day a week cycle. The easiest, simplest thing to do is every other second week. So, like 1 out of every 4 quality sessions, do it either on challenging terrain or hills. That's like the number one thing to do. Take your normal workout and just translate it to a different terrain. And that can be, let's say you're just doing 400s. Let's say you have a classic threshold workout of like 20 by 400 at 10K or half marathon pace. Do it in the grass. Do it on a trail. Do it up a hill. Do it up and down a hill. Take the workout. Don't make it an OCR workout, but do it on a more OCR terrain and see what that does for your fitness. You have peace of mind that 75% of your quality work is still happening right in your realm, but 25% is enough in my mind that you're going to get some noob gains out of it. It's enough that 3 months later, you're going to say, I feel more stable in my hips, or I have better staying power during my runs right now. Something's going to happen. And then it'll make you say, well, what if I did every other or every third? Every third is probably the sweet spot for a lot of people, but starting with 1 out of every 4 quality workouts, change the location of it. I think that's step 1 in my opinion.
What about just taking your just tiresome 3 to 5 by a mile or your 12 by 400 meters and just taking that and saying, all right, my mile repeats take me about 7 minutes. Screw it. I'm just going to go on the treadmill and run 7 minute repeats at 15% incline instead. Would that be a version that would count? Because it's still a
Absolutely.
purest form. Right. It's a
Yeah.
purest form of running. We can wrap our head around it. It's accessible. Winter's coming. The treadmill's appealing. In the north, it's hard to get on terrain sometimes. It could be as simple as that. You know what? My 400 takes 90 seconds. I'm going to do 20 by 90 seconds with 60 seconds rest at 15%. That would be the most approachable version of this is take it to the treadmill going uphill. Time
100%.
translate.
I love it.
And you're
And
going to feel bad, by the way, if you don't do
yeah,
that stuff often. And you're going to be like, this is horrible. And I feel so slow. And my turnover is so bad. My heart rate's at 180 and the whole treadmill's soaked in sweat. And how could this possibly be making me better flat running because I'm going so slow uphill? Just believe. We could just trust us. We could justify it physiologically, but it will and it does and it can. And it's, I think, still the secret sauce. But nonetheless, that'd be my add on to what you just suggested.
I love it. And for that first uphill treadmill session, it is intimidating and it feels very, very blurry on how do I even execute one. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to walk them through how to execute your first uphill treadmill workout. And feel free to chime in and help me round this out because I want it to be approachable for people. So, in my opinion, it's best to do it on an interval workout because you won't have the staying power uphill. Things will just give out on your legs and you won't get a great workout out of it. So, make it an interval workout. And in your warm up, play around with uphill and down. I mean, not uphill and downhill, less and more incline until you find the highest runnable incline. And what I mean by that is you're running at 0%, you bump up to 1, and then 2 and 3 and 4 and so on up. And at some point, you're going to feel like your form has to change slightly to run that incline. That's the tip over point. So a half a degree or percent or 1% below that is your highest runnable incline. The steepest you can run up without feeling like you're changing your flat running stride. And that's where I would do my first incline workout, right at that one. And if during the workout you need to change that slightly, you can do that. I think for most people, that's between 6 and 10% your first time. But it'll vary for you. But choose something approachable the first time so you can get a workout out of it. And I would keep the reps to 6 minutes or less your first time.
Crank that thing to 15%. Suck it up.
You could. You could.
No,
It's going to suck.
The problem what happens there, your advice is better than what I just said. Mine's only partially tongue in cheek, but I'm going to say if you haven't done much uphill work on the treadmill, I'm going to say 50% of you listening don't have the fitness to run at 15% for any amount of time. And you end up getting reduced to a power hike because you literally can't run anymore. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying those are facts. Like uphill running is hard. And so if you get to the point at like 15% where you cannot run and the point is to run, then yeah, reduce the incline so you still feel like you can be proficient in the run form, and something that you must be aware of is if you touch the handles, I cut off your hands. So you ain't touching handles, people. That's not the point. You get slapped around, kicked out of. Yep, you cannot touch nothing. Arms move like you're running. You don't grab onto nothing. Just heads up there. That changes things
for sure. And then the other, I guess the last piece of that is that if you go a little too high early on, it can stress your rear chain a little bit.
It can.
And since the point of this is to make us better, I'd rather ease into it and not get uncomfortable or hurt or strain something or tweak something early on. But the first one needs to be approachable so that you'll do a second one.
I think 6%. 6%, if you want not scare yourself away, it's a great starting point.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Even right now, I'm doing all my stuff incline, except for one workout. And 15 is too much for me right now, I'm finding. 10% is my sweet spot right now.
Is 15% power hiking grade for you these days, Brakken?
No, but it's not a comfortable stride for me. If I wanted to be really uncomfortable, that's a good incline. If I wanted to get purposeful running done, I don't have the fitness to do 15% right now.
The biggest mistake people make when making that transition is they take these big galloping strides on the treadmill as if they're running flat, trying to open their stride up. And it's so costly. It's like you want to fluddle, prance, you short, choppy, stay upright, stay efficient. I mean, I did it. As soon as I started trying to run uphill, I'm like taking my big, normal, open, flat ground stride, and it was so immensely costful. It's like you need to, or costly, you need to just shorten it up. But I want to divert here just slightly to my suggestion, one in addition to yours, which is to distill it down again. Get on terrain that is not clean, or hills, or the treadmill, and hit 1 out of 3 that way and see what happens. Is that fair enough?
Perfect. 1 out of 3 is what I would love to see. 1 out of 4 is probably more acceptable to most runners' palate.
And we have very, very exquisite palates, us runners.
As don't you think?
So here's what I just want to kind of rip the Band-Aid off so people understand the feeling we're talking about. And it's a very efficient way to train. In fact, this is what I did for my workout yesterday. What I want you to do is usually you need a treadmill and you need access to weights close by. I have a home gym, so it's conducive. What did I do yesterday? I did a 15-minute warm-up on the treadmill, 3% incline. It doesn't even matter. Let's say I was running 7:30 to 8-minute pace, which for me is very, very comfortable. I hop off. I'm doing heavy sets of 6 to 8 on bench press. I have like 195 or 200 pounds on there, benching, getting right back on the treadmill, running for 90 seconds, getting right back off, hitting my next set of bench, hopping right back on. My heart rate's drifting a little beyond recovery at this point because of what happens, but I'm going back and forth between strength training and running. Instead of sitting there and resting like a normal traditional strength workout, I'm literally running 90 seconds to 2 minutes, quick transitioning to my weighted pull-ups, going back to the treadmill running. I worked out for 70 minutes. I got both of my sessions in. I got, 3 exercises for chest, 3 exercises for back. Got to move some weight. I was in a time crunch. It was efficient. It was 70 minutes where my heart rate stayed up, and I got to get my strength workout in. You start to feel mean, my boobs were bouncing, my back and biceps. It hurt like just to hold my arms in the arm, like the bent arm position after weighted pull-ups. I'm like, my whole body feels in disarray right now. And yet I have to get right back to running. And so the starting point for you to understand, like, what could this type of training do to my body and demands, make your strength workout an aerobic run session as well, and just see how it feels. You'd be like, oh my God, how full my body feels right now. My heart rate is 15 beats a minute higher at this pace than it would be if I was just clean running. Like, whoa, what? That is a response. And you can take that and play around with it. And not only that, but then the next step is, I'm going to run hard and then bench press and run hard and then do pull-ups and run. And pretty soon your heart rate's at 175. It's staying there. Your whole body feels like it's been hit by a dump truck and you can't figure out why it's so hard. That's the feeling I'm talking about. And so in this off season, when I don't need to be quite as specific, I often conjoin the things, and most pure runners are going to scoff at this, but try it. Do me this, pay me some service and give it a try and tell me what you think. And you'll be like, I get it. Running felt horrible. Why is that? Well, your body's going to adapt so it becomes better at moving oxygen and tolerating demands. And so I challenge somebody to start there, which is kind of a jerk suggestion because it's not terribly comfortable, but you'll understand what I'm talking about if you do.
And I agree with you, and I support that. But I think you've lost all the runners already. I don't think they will. So I'll give them a stepping stone.
Why don't you think they will?
Because it's so non-specific to running. Like we were those runners. You wouldn't have been able to pay me enough to do that workout in college.
Can I just give a comparative? So I did this workout yesterday. Let's say I ran 7:30 to 8-minute pace in between. Got a great stimulus in, time crunch. Checked both two birds, one stone. But I'm running 7:30 to 8-minute pace. I go out today for a 6-mile tempo and I run 5:30 pace. Okay. Honestly, it felt the same effort-wise for most of the time because I didn't have blood going to all my extremities. I didn't have to worry about recovering from the strength I just did. And even if it's just for perspective's sake, like today was like, oh my God, this feels so comfortable because there's not other parts of my body under demand. And that's also valuable. And so it's not going to take away from your running. No. I ran 2 minutes a mile faster. It was still there is what I'm saying. I didn't mess it up by doing
Correct.
That. So I just want to make sure that's said.
Well, and I'm with you. But I think we got there over time. We wouldn't have started with that workout. But they should.
Somebody's going to do it and message me. But go ahead. You're probably correct.
Well, but you're right. Like, just try it. It'll shortcut you to the last page of the story and say, this is what it can do. This is what it feels like. Maybe work back. But if they won't, let's talk about the most basic compromise running you can do so that you guarantee I'm working on my running here. It's not taking away from it, but it might be that gateway drug to that type of run.
Okay.
So for me, that's think about worst case scenario in a race. In a 5K, I'm dying and blank is fatigued. Or in a hilly 10K, this is what goes. Or in a marathon, this is what goes. Let's say it's your hips, your quads, and your guts burning. Then let's just focus on hips and quads then. Do a classic workout you've done a million times. Let's say it's 3 by mile. But each time, do like 20 squat pulses. And then run. And just get yourself to that hip or glute or quad feeling for the first step of your repeat rather than in the last 400 meters of each one. And then you can wrap your mind around, well, this is race specific. I'm just getting to a race specific feeling early. And now I'm actually getting more use out of my reps because every step is in this place that I usually only get towards the end of the workout. I would start with something like that. The most minuscule compromised run that you could do, again, like once every third or fourth workout, and just feel what that does for your running. And you may just whet your appetite for doing that type of workout Kirk just suggested.
Like 20 walking lunges into 400 meters. Do that.
Yes. Yeah. Even if you're doing 16 by 400, do it every fourth rep. Just feel it.
It's a good suggestion. And here's the thing, though, is you're not going to, this is purely a sacrifice. What's going to happen? You're going to probably run slower than you want to. You're going to be sore the next day. And you're going to be like, this is dumb. My running was worse. But you need to be patient with it. Wait until you get to week 3, week 4, week 5, and suddenly you go out for your progression long run and you're like, oh my God, I cut down 10 more seconds per mile than I normally do. Where did that come from? It's not like the immediate thing. This isn't going to be like an immediate satisfaction thing. In fact, it's going to bump you back, your ego a little bit, and be like, okay, well, that sucked. Right. But then you got to stick with it and wait till you feel it in that quality session 3 weeks later. That is a
Mhm.
pure quality run session. You're like, that felt really good today and oddly easy. And where did that, what, why? Be like, oh, I know why. Because I put harder demands on my body previously and I'm adapting. And so
Yep.
it's one of those things you just got to trust and just give it a little bit of time and wait for the payoff.
I agree with
Won't be
that.
right away.
This is to reiterate, this will not make you faster. It'll make you slow less when things go askew. So, like you said, that cut down or a long run or a long tempo at mile 8, when you usually start to have hip fatigue that slows you down, you might not have that in mile 8. You might not have it until mile 9 now or mile 10, or you might feel it, but now you find you can hold your form together through that where you didn't do that before. That's where these workouts manifest. That's where OCR training. You're not going to become a faster miler, but in the home stretch, you might be able to use your arms more than you're used to because your arms can drive power now. It's late stage in workouts and runs where this shines through.
Yeah, you say this about shoe choices, which sticks. Like, you don't want to pick the shoe that you feel the best in your first mile. You want to pick the shoe that makes you feel best in your last mile. And I think this type of training doesn't make you any better in your first or second mile or your first or second reps. It
Mm-hmm.
makes you better in your second to last or last mile or your second to last or last reps in your pure run
That's
sessions.
exactly it.
It's the insurance policy. That's what I think it is. Yeah. I, I still think there's room for it. Like, I always thought, like, if I was really going to shake up a system, like a train, like take like high level athletes
Mm-hmm.
and actually implement things like this, athletes who are at a high level, who are pretty much, peak of their career, stagnated in a fast run capacity. They're very good. They're just, their improvement has been uh we'll just say minuscule. I, I always wondered if we shook things up this drastically with somebody like that you might see breakthroughs even in some of the professionals. I think it could bleed that far into that good of athletes, depending on their specific race. I always wonder if we could take a camp and
I
make them
agree.
do stuff like this.
Well, and here's why, in my opinion. Especially, I think it's great on newbie runners, but also good on established runners because the pros are so efficient that they're just sipping fuel, and you have to do massive amounts of volume and reps and intensity to get to the late stage race fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in doing compromised running, the single greatest aspect of compromised running to me, in my opinion, is that you get more quality reps in the workout. If you're running 10 by 1,000 at threshold pace with 60 seconds rest, you really don't breach your threshold or get up to it for the majority of the workout. By the end of each rep, you might, but you're really recovered to start each rep and you're running really clean. And so for 10,000 meters of running, you might spend 3,000 meters truly
Mm-hmm.
in like the fatigue level you want to be in, or recruiting more muscle fibers because some have fatigued out. If you add lunges or squat pulses or whatever you wanted to add in prior to those reps, you probably double how
Mm-hmm.
many meters you just spent in that state without really having to change any of the demands of the workout recovery. So I think a high level runner could just spend more time getting higher quality individual stride reps in without having to do an obscene amount of volume to get there.
You get there quicker.
Get there much quicker.
And let's just propose this, and then we gotta pull the rug out from underneath this thing today. Is it's very easy to get stagnant this time of year in training. We're approaching the
Mhm.
winter months. Discipline, motivation can be a little lower with races quite a ways off. You notice your enthusiasm is a little bit lower. The doldrums right now can sort of be happening for some people. We're in that weird gray space, a lot of us, with our training in relation to races we care about. So our emotional investment is low. We're also going to be indoors a little more because some of you fair weather fairies out there don't go outside in the winter unless it's like 35 degrees or warmer. Blah. Anyways, this style is very good for you people who choose to be stuck indoors in the winter, or the ones who just need a shake up because I'm so sick of my stupid route out my neighborhood,
Mhm.
or any of that. Like, this is a great time of year to experiment, or especially if you're one who's just like, I just need a shake up. That's reason enough to do what we're saying. And so I think it fits that role as well for some people.
Love it. All right, I'm wrapping with my 3 proofs of myself. My post-collegiate mile PR came off of a
How
lot of
long is this
hill
going to
work.
take?
30 seconds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we got 30 seconds. Okay.
Post-collegiate mile PR came when I was doing a lot of hill work. My post-collegiate 5K PR came when I was doing a lot of compromised running to prep for OCR. And my 21-mile lake loop, my PR came when I was training for OCR. A lot of compromised running and hill sessions. All 3 were pancake flat, but all
Mhm.
3 had OCR principles as the main focus of my training plan.
And you got better at all pure run things.
Pure run things. And all 3 were because I didn't fade.
Hmm. Well, now I didn't have in the chamber my 3 examples, but I do know when I switched to OCR and trained for mountain races, I took 30 seconds off my 5K in the blink of an eye. And I also know I was more well rounded. No matter what the race came up, I could go run flat and fast, or I could go run on terrain at altitude. So there's one example right there, no questions asked.
Yeah.
And then heck, I go train for a track 5K or a road half marathon, which is the exact opposite of a trail race with 2,500 feet of game. But then I go out and do that and still nail it because my road training translated to my trail running as well. So it works both ways.
Engine is engine.
Yeah.
Durability is durability.
Preach, brother.
All right. It's Thanksgiving here in the States. If you are not, we still are thankful for you as our listeners and members of the running community. And if you are in the United States, happy Thanksgiving.
Enjoy, guys. Go put all that fuel from Thursday to use and crush some turkey trot or some long run. Be good. It's a good time to rip this week. Phew.